Lana,
Shauno,
how are you?
fabulous.
Excellent. Thanks for coming on.
Ready for action, my friend. Let's
Yeah,
do Fisher.
let's do a lot of things. I'd like to start. You landed in agency land after you were kind of getting towards, let's call it executive level at Universal,
Yes.
way back when you were buddies with Taylor Swift
Me,
before she was famous.
me and Taylor Swift, me and the Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah,
Yep. Me and Justin Bieber.
yeah,
We were best friends.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you meet those guys
I did
and
meet those
girls?
guys. Yeah, my job was to look after them, to take them to all the media, interviews with radio, with press, and then make sure they got to their gig and make sure that the meet and greets were appropriate
Yeah.
and then make sure they got on stage. That was
So that really trained you for dealing with your husband, current husband.
so much to unpack in that. That trained me for that trained me to deal with a lot of different people. And I guess if you look at always putting other people first, which is the role of a good account manager or account director, is the client. If you deliver what the client wants, then your job's much easier. The training that I had with musicians and making sure that their riders were full, making sure that they got places on time, to have interviews that went really well, because I also had interviews that did not go so well. And
But that stuff's sometimes out of your control.
yeah, it doesn't matter though. Your job is to make sure it goes well. So if it's out of your control, your job is to get it back into your control in one way or another. And so when you're dealing with young media, so street press and community radio, and when you're dealing with young bands as well, so not just the Taylor Swifts of the world, but also up and coming bands, you have a lot of interesting, as a 19, 20-year-old female, you have a lot of interesting conversations about getting the musos and the rock stars into where they need to be.
Yeah. But she wasn't Taylor Swift back then, as we know her now. She was a star on the rise.
If we go away from agency stuff, she was always Taylor Swift. She, to this day, is, and I met a lot of big name people because that was my job. She was, if I was 20, she probably would have been 16, 17, 18 the first time I worked with her. She was phenomenal. Everything about her as a 16-year-old was controlled. This is her image. There's to be no alcohol around. There's to be none of that sort of stuff around her, because her job is to perform for young girls and for those girls to look up to her. So we, as the record label, couldn't do anything that put that in disrepute. Her reputation was always squeaky clean and had to be. I then worked with her 3 or 4 times after that, and it was exactly the same. She is who she is, and she is never going to break away from that. And if you don't like that, she doesn't have to be at the record label. But this is Taylor Swift's world, and this is how she does it. And I remember there was a meet and greet with her that was meant to go for 30 minutes. She sat down with every single person, opened their presents, made sure we were 2 hours in that meet and greet. And the rule was, that's what Taylor's going to do.
Yeah.
And so that is, as a 16-year-old, so professional.
Yeah.
And you didn't get that across all the musicians, because different.
Some musicians are not that professional.
No.
So this is 20 years ago. So what prompted the change or the jump into, and was agency the next, where you landed next?
Agency was where I landed next. So what happened was I was 22 when I left the music industry. So old. And I'd realised that my bosses at the time had been in the industry since I was born. And they loved what they did. And I didn't love what I did. I loved music. But I would walk into gigs and shows and I would sign my name off, and then I would go out with my friends because I didn't love my job anymore. And so I went to my boss at the time, because I, again, very big on respect and professionalism, and said, I don't think I want to do this for the rest of my life. She said, Splendour in the Grass is coming up. We'll have all the support acts, and if you don't love it then you're never going to love it. Day after Splendour finished, walked into her office and said, yeah, it's not for me. And she said, what are you going to do? I said, I have absolutely no idea, but I know it's not this. So I then went to a PR firm. I think I lasted... No, actually, I went to a digital agency. That's right, I went to a digital agency and I lasted maybe 6 months there. Not even 6 months. I then went to a PR firm. I didn't last 2 months there. And what I realised, and this is where my, as you call him, current husband comes into it, I didn't want to work for other people then. I was young, I could do it all myself, so why wouldn't I do it myself? And when I was at the digital agency and the PR firm, I had written social media strategies for clients.
Which was very new back then.
So Pinterest didn't exist. That's how long ago this was. It was Facebook and it was Twitter. That was the extent of it. And it was Instagram had just sort of come into the way of being, you couldn't schedule posts, everything was manual. Decision makers were all sort of CEO types who didn't understand social media. So it was a very different concept then. And I remember very clearly sitting in the PR firm and thinking, I don't want to do PR. I need to do this myself. And
Was that because they were behind? You felt they were slow to adopt? Because this is quite analogous to what's going on now.
It is the equivalent of what's happening in the world of AI is what social media was then. It's a very good question. I didn't know then. I was very young and I can do all of the things. So I thought, why not? Who will it hurt? And so that's sort of that was the mindset that I went into it with. Also with someone like Tim.
Current husband.
He's entrepreneurial. I say, I'm a business owner. He's an entrepreneur. And he was very big on, well, why wouldn't you just give it a go? We'd just started dating at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, why wouldn't you try? And so I tried, and thankfully it worked because I'd say Melbourne's a very small place and you have a lot of contacts very easily. And so what rolled out was my first social media agency that Tim and I started together. I was the front of it. I was 22, I believe, at that stage. And my first hire was my best friend from kindergarten. And happy to say we speak every single day, still very good friends, regardless of the fact that we had worked together in a little agency that had zero idea what it was doing and would eventually become a sort of $1 million asset. But at that time, we were posting manually to Twitter and Facebook.
And that was social media servants.
That was social media servants, SMS.
And you ended up getting some pretty decent clients with that, just from learning as you go, basically building the plane as you were flying it.
Not even building the plane. we have a structure of a plane that was flying. It definitely, we got wonderful clients. We had wonderful people. So we had people like kids' toy brands. And I remember we had a little office in Collingwood that had 3 desks in it. They had 5 people come in. So they're an international toy brand. 5 people came in and we had to go to the local coffee shop because they could not fit in our Collingwood office.
And you won the account.
And then that turned into, from the first account, we then got another 4 with them, and then we got another 3 offshoots of other kids' toy brands because of that.
So what is it about that? Because that would be, I imagine, when the dance is really important. You've got to look the part, don't turn up in a dirty car type thing.
Yep.
And you've pitched to these people in a coffee shop and won the account.
Yeah.
So you must be very good at building that rapport very quickly, or whatever you had to show them, they felt sorry for you. Combination of
2 things can be true. I think there were multiple factors. One, it goes back to, I guess, the upbringing I had in my career, which was just make sure the client is happy. Just make sure the muso is happy. Just make sure the person who you are delivering to is happy. And if you start from that idea of my job is just to make them happy, you realize very early on that if they're happy, your job is easier. And so that's sort of the first thing of everything that we deliver, and this goes to the businesses we have now, everything should be in service of making that person happy, making the client happy, the member happy, the customer happy. And if you work from that, even when there are mistakes or there are problems, the relationship is always going to be there because you're giving and giving and giving. The right sort of a client realizes that, and in return they give back. And that's what we had with the kids' toy brand. It didn't matter that we were in a coffee shop. It didn't matter that we were a team of 3 at the time. What mattered is that, we had a really good product, but everyone has a good product. What mattered was that we could actually deliver it. But again, most people can deliver what they say they do in an agency. The key was that we had myself, Tim, and at the time, Kate, and we were good people and they were good people. And so everything about business, you can say it's not personal, it's just business, but business is personal. Business you have to want at the very start to be with that person, to hang out with that person, to answer that person's phone calls. And if you can understand, particularly early in your career, if you have that relationship, they're going to say yes so many more times. And that's how we got the additional accounts. They could have gone with other agencies, they could have gone with freelancers, whatever it looked like. But the reality was they knew that our team would deliver every time. And when they saw our name calling on their phone, they actually wanted to answer it.
Mm. Is that one of the best bits of advice you could give to other, let's call them agency owners, but business owners in general? That extends to whatever you're kind of doing. Be a good person, sort of thing. But you find, I think, that there's a lot of griping around client relationships, you know, in agency land, because you that's all I really know. But professional services, people having a bad day, they'll put the boot into someone, and it can be the agency. So not taking it personally and just go, I just got to do this and make them happy, then we're all going to be a lot better. So in the initial starting of your company and learning on the job, what is, for someone in this position now who may hear this and think, I don't want to be in PR. What's your advice?
I would say, if we look again at that client relationship, I think if you should be in it, you care very, very deeply, but you don't mind a lot. So you have to care about the work, you have to care about the client, you have to care about what you're doing. But we're not saving lives, we're not in hospitals. And while it is so, so important, there has to be a level of understanding of, if the wrong piece of content goes out, it is really bad. But where does that actually fit in the bigger picture?
Yeah.
And if you have the relationship, if you've always done right, if you've always been giving, one misstep or one mistake shouldn't erase the entire relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And if a client leaves, it wasn't because one bad thing happened, it was everything that led up to that. So I would be looking at, in terms of advice, if a client leaves and you're upset, that was the end point, work backwards and say, well, when did we actually lose them and what didn't we do? Because you can only control what you do. You can't control them or what they might say or think. And so always come back to that idea of, did I always give my best? Did I always give the best value? And if they still left, then it's probably a good thing, because they're not the right fit for you.
Yeah. How big did Social Media Servants get?
So Social Media Servants rebranded into Loud Days. And so it was still the same agency. And within that, we added, obviously, the digital marketing. I say obviously, but social media was the beginning, and then digital marketing came along, which was Google Ads, SEO, e-newsletters, all that good stuff in the background. So when we got to the Loud Days level, so Social Media Servants rebranded into Loud Days, in terms of size, we were $1 million agency, so it had sort of 2 to 3 million in revenue coming through, and we had, so very lucky, we were the social media agency for AFL Women's, so we launched AFL Women's. And off the back of that, we then did Cricket Australia. So we got the Female Cricket Australia Big Bash and international team. Off the back of that, we then started working with the PFA, so the Professional Footballers Association, which is soccer. So we were working with the Matildas on that sort of side.
So women in sport, you really started to niche into that.
That's what we started to niche into. We had kids' toy brands. So we had the very big players in that market. And then we also had, what do you call them? I guess FMCG. So working with the likes of Rockaby, the current in Coles and Woolworths and those sorts of brands come through. So they were the main pillars that we worked through, and we just had a lot of fun when it was fun.
Yeah. So you're going back to your days dealing with musicians, and I'll say people that they think very highly of themselves, and that not that they're entitled, but you're looking after me sort of thing. Taught you to deal with those sorts of personalities, which then collectively a client can really behave the same way. So you're match fit from doing that stuff with the music industry. How did you go about imparting this is how you should behave to clients, to your team? Because it's one thing to say, it's all about making them happy and doing right by them, but you can't take it personally. That's a really fine line to toe, because sometimes it can really bum you out. Yeah. So having that shield and still caring enough to actually deliver, there's like a combination of, there's pride. I know when it's your company, you feel a bit more strongly about the outcome because it's attached to you. But how did you impart that on your team? Because that's people are a big part of company growth.
Again, Tim and I were very lucky with the team that we had all the way through. They were incredible humans, and it comes back to who you hire. So there was one person that after, I think it was 6 hours, collectively the team, we all knew this was the wrong person. So
before a day was out.
Before the day was out, so that person was no longer in the business.
How did they get through the gauntlet of interviews if they were wrong?
On us, 100%. So we made the mistake. We missed some flags, and the culture is the people, and whoever's going to be setting the culture needs to be hiring the people. So it's great that you have a manager in there, but if that manager's not the culture person, then they can't be the only final decision. So we have all wonderful people in and out of the business. They're just good people, and to this day, they're all doing amazing things. And if you were to see them in the street, you would see the values in them are similar to what we've been talking about, is they were always going to do their best. They were always going to put other people first. And whether or not they've got varying levels of success in terms of what they're doing in their lives, they're doing what makes them happy. And so you need to have happy people in an agency. And so in terms of what we did is we had systems, we had processes that everyone followed. So you could be exactly who you are as a person and know that the outcome was going to be there. Sometimes agencies, particularly creative agencies, it's a feeling. And so how you build a brand, how you build digital marketing, how you build stuff is less structured and more feeling. And from my point of view, we were able to build a solid agency because we had a structure that says this is what you do. And if you go out of this structure, you're going to have problems. So then how do you deal with the client? Well, you've got a relationship because you don't need to be thinking about the structure. You need to be thinking like a human.
Mm-hmm. And you had a pretty clear, maybe you didn't. You wanted to exit eventually. That was the goal.
Yeah.
So your structures and processes and the way that foundation was built allowed you to grow and scale, and therefore you exited.
Yep.
After, 10 years or something?
Yeah, probably about 10-ish.
Yep. So was that we're going to build this asset and Sunday sell it and go and do something? Was that the...
Yeah. So when Tim and I started, we always wanted to build to sell. That was the idea. And the thing that makes the business sellable is obviously clients, contracts, all that sort of stuff, the people in the business, so coming along with it, and the systems and processes. Now, if you don't have revenue and you don't have profit, well, you're not going to get a high rate. But if you don't have those three things sorted, then you're also not going to get a good sell price. So from the very beginning, we knew this is how it had to be. And it just so happens that my brain is very structural. I'm very operational, and that makes perfect sense to me. So that was an easy fit. We went around, it was probably about 6 years we thought we would sell. We sat down with very good mentors and now good friends of ours, and they said, keep building. You're not going to get the price that you want. Keep building, keep bringing in the revenue. You've got all the foundation, but if you want a good price, you have to up the revenue and the profit. So that's what we did.
And if there's any business owner, but let's say agencies that are tired, I mean, I talk to a lot of them, they're like, oh, and eventually they realize, even if they don't admit it to anyone, they've created their own job. But it's a job where you kind of can't take annual leave or you can't take sick leave, a lot of them, because it may fall over if it's that shaky. So when you are an employee and you can switch off and you don't have that when you're an owner, you're like, what am I doing? I just want to sell. And there's this overinflated expectation that my company's worth this, and it's not worth that because they don't have the things that you've spoken about. So you guys very clearly built towards that exit. Now and I think that's great advice, systemize it, et cetera, et cetera. But if someone's got that or they're getting towards that, how do they even go about finding a mentor to explain to them what their company's worth legitimately, so they're not getting ripped off?
To value a company is to throw a whole bunch of marbles in the air and catch one. Everyone has a different valuation system. There are so many models that you can do. And the reality is agencies aren't selling for a lot now. I was extremely lucky at the time that I sold. I had learnt because we went the sales process probably 2 or 3 times before we got the right fit. And the second time we went to sale, I had to be heavily included in the sale. The final time that we went around, we found people, and I'd put in a general manager who is a very good friend and very qualified in what he does, and I had brought him into the equity piece. So whatever the sell price was, this person was going to get some of it because he had committed to it. And you do the right thing by the right people. And we were very lucky at the time that everything lined up. But it took us, 2 to 3 goes to get the right people, the right price, the right structures to make this a reality. Nowadays, you need everything to line up. So the people, the processes, the clients, the revenue, the profitability. You also need the right partner that it's actually going to integrate into. You also need the right services for the future. So when I sold, AI was not what it is today. It was in the background, it was sitting there, but there was a lot more conversation around machine learning than there was AI, and then it completely flipped. Now, if you're looking to sell, the question is going to be, where's your future? How are you making sure that you're not going to get taken over by the platforms, that you're not going to get taken over by a new upstart? Because if you can future-proof what you're doing, that's going to make your sell price much higher, or at the very least, it's not going to drop it down to a very low level.
Do you think that the selling of agencies now is going to completely die off? Because if people are talking about replacing, I mean, like Jack Dorsey fired half his staff last week from Block and he's like, we're profitable, but it's coming. I don't want to delay it. I'm just going to do it. And we're seeing this more and more and more and more where, and if you go on LinkedIn, like, hey, I replaced my whole staff with this thing and it took 2 minutes. And it's like, yeah, whatever. Do you think that's going to remove agencies being able to exit, or are they going to sort of do more with less with all these tools out here and maybe build themselves that less stressful lifestyle because they've got less superannuation to pay?
I think it comes back to what we at the very beginning spoke about, which is the relationship. Humans are still making decisions. And so for now. Well, humans are still owning the businesses. So the moment AI owns a business, they're probably going to use AI to do everything.
Yeah.
But we're still humans who are making human decisions at the very top, even if it's backed by data. And so there is still currently the need for the human relationship. You're still trusting the person in the agency. You're still trusting the person that you're selling to. So anyone who can predict the future right now, good for you. There is no one who actually knows what's going to happen because the rate at which things are changing, and this is sort of like a general idea that they've been talking about. At the time when TV took over, information was changing at roughly, it was 1 hour. Currently, a minute is worth a month. That's how quickly it's changing. And so I couldn't even pretend to know where the future is. However, humans are being replaced with technology. That's the reality. But humans are still making the final decision. And if you replace your entire team with tech, that's wonderful. But then what is a person buying that can't be replicated? Because all technology can be replicated.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen this time and time again with AI models out of different countries that have just completely taken entire prompts, replicated it, and gone to market. All we've got right now to stand on that can't be replicated is the human side of it and how we push it, and the technology that no one else has built. It's not to say it won't be built, but that's where we're standing.
You're happily married and you fired your husband from your own business.
Yep.
Halfway through the 10-year journey, or why did you fire him? Because that's I find that so funny. Yeah, why'd you fire him?
Honestly?
Yeah.
Because he didn't like what he was doing. And so we built the agency together, and as I said, he's entrepreneurial. He's so good at what he does. The business, the agency, was running. It was doing its thing.
There's not a challenge for him.
No challenge. It didn't need the entrepreneurial thing there. It needed to grow. So we got past the big, it's interesting, it's exciting, and now it was great. Now let's just grow revenue. Let's get good clients. Let's do that. We still got to innovate because that's what a business does, but we didn't need entrepreneur. And so we got back from a holiday, and I sat him down. I said, I don't think you're particularly happy doing what you're doing. So you've got 3 weeks. I'm going to keep you, like, you're on wage. It's our business, so you're not just kicked out as much as we joke. I said, but why don't you just go and do what you want to do? Why don't you find what you love, but know that if you ever decide, actually, I like the agency, we'll come back. I think it took him maybe 3 days, and he'd found what he wanted to do, which was Philotomo, and he started it.
And it just ran nice and smooth. That little.
Yeah, we had the same office,
Yep.
we shared the same resources, we were able to bounce off each other. It definitely was a different. If you look back on what Philotomo was then to what it is today, it has changed so much. But that's, at the end of the day, he loves building businesses and he cares about business owners. And so I kind of thought, well, why are you in a digital agency?
Mm. Very interesting. Now, so this selling of Loud Days, and I believe you sort of hit social media servants had grown. You had the end pared back a little bit because of some misfires with some acquisition.
Yep.
You know, sort of quite bumpy, rebranded, and a couple of years ago you sold.
Yeah.
So post pandemic.
Yep.
Were you in the throes of selling it when the whole Melbourne lockdown thing was happening, or how did you navigate that?
Yeah, the timing is actually, now that you bring it up, is very interesting. So if we say that we had about 3 options to sell, the first one we completely just pulled back on because it wasn't right for us. We rebranded, we built up, had the opportunity to sell, and there was just some, I guess we'll call it politics that happened whereby, I think miscommunication was going on. And at the end of the day, I couldn't be sure that the deal that was on the table for the people buying it was actually going to be what they were going to get. And so all you have is your reputation. So I needed to make sure that the reputation that I had worked very hard on was one that was kind of honoured and honourable. And so we made the decision, it's just not the right deal for us at the time. Let's not go ahead with that.
That was the first one?
That was the first real buyer that, it was.
And this is pre-pandemic?
This was pre-pandemic. It would have been maybe 8 or 9 months later that COVID hit. So within a year, COVID hit. And for us, it was actually a boom time because suddenly everyone had no option but to use digital marketing in order to reach people. We had a wonderful team. There were only 3 or 4 of us at that time because we'd scaled right back to say, well, what do we actually want to do? What does this look like? And we were all working from home, doing our thing, catching up for random coffees within the 5K radius.
Yep.
And we took it in our stride because what are you going to do? There were so many businesses and business owners that we were working with through Philotomo who couldn't operate, who actually couldn't do what they were meant to be doing. And so myself, my general manager, we looked at ourselves and thought, how lucky are we? In what is a time that we have zero control over, we get to just keep doing, and like the rest of the world, everything stopped. So you're not missing out. Let's just keep doing this.
Well, it particularly stopped for us here with the being like shut down, and that was not that long ago, but it feels like a long time ago with all that sort of stuff. So we go through those sort of lockdowns, and then I remember talking to you in 2023, and the sale had happened, but you were still working in the transition phase, I think, with the new owners and buyers, and you were kind of in the background doing all that stuff. So that happened. That's done and dusted. And now you've landed at not an agency, but a tech company.
Yep.
And talk about that.
Yeah, love to.
We'll talk about it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So I think there's a nice full circle here. You mentioned business advisory has been a big part of your life, and whilst Tim does, that is his passion. You've contributed quite a bit to that as well, just with your experience I think the skills in dealing with people are applicable to any industry at the moment. And again, going right back to when you were dealing with big personalities, there's a way to not manipulate, but get what you need from the situation so everyone wins.
Yeah.
And if you're good at that, then that's the big thing, because everything else you can systemize, et cetera, et cetera. So you've been match fit for a while in all that sort of stuff. And then we move into this massive tech phase where those old skills that you've had for 20 years now, they're still really relevant, but there's this whole tech angle now where we're in a brave new world and it's changing like a month every minute. Everyone's scared. So talk about this this kind of journey where you guys have applied 10 years of business advisory data, and you've spent the last 4 years building something.
It's a bit more than that. So we started in 2020, Backable, as a podcast, and the idea was the world has stopped. People and owners are lonely. No one actually knows what happened. Similar to right now with what is the future of AI. No one actually knows. No one knew what the future was. No one knew what the next day was. You know, here in Melbourne, I think it was the Premier wearing Patagonia, or was he wearing a suit? That was how much we knew where we were going to end up. And again, it's all Tim.
Do you know what? It was 6 years ago now. It was.
It is. It's March.
Because I remember. Sorry to interrupt. You've just jogged my memory. I was at an event at the Melbourne Club, like a business event, and the Minister for Sport, I think, was talking about the Grand Prix, and it was a Thursday. So it was yesterday, 6 years ago.
Because they let them in and someone in Ferrari had COVID.
Yeah, and he got up and he sort of said, this, because it had come out of China and, people were aware of it. He goes, there's no way that this will affect anything. We're all good. And that was the Thursday night. By Friday, they'd shut it down. Yeah. And certainly by Saturday, it was done. And then I feel like a couple of 2 weeks later, that was locked down. Yeah. So started 2020, right?
Started 2020. Happy anniversary.
Yeah, happy COVID-versary. So the Backable podcast, which is the precursor to the product that's now about to go.
Yeah, next week.
Yeah.
So we started that.
It's just very timely that we're talking next week.
It's meant to be, my friend.
It is meant to be. But it started to be, Backable was a support thing for businesses struggling with this new world of what the hell do we do?
It was business support. And struggling or not struggling, it was people were alone. No one knew what was happening. There's a community of everyone who's feeling the same way. And Tim, Nigel and myself, we had the ability to help people. And again, we go right back to the very beginning. Just make it your job to help other people in what you do, and you'll be a really great account manager. It was a similar sort of thing. And Tim has always come at business from this point of view, often to a detriment to himself. And I do believe it's a little bit of the Greek in him, which is just give. Just do. It will all turn out. It will all be quite fatalistic. And he said, we've got this ability to do this, so we have to do this. And so we did a podcast. We did it every single week. We recorded episodes. We then did live streams that anyone could jump on. Mm-hmm. We sent it to one of the big networking groups so that they could send it out. And the idea was there's no money. There's none of that. It is just you are not alone in what is going on here. If you then jump a little bit back with Philotomo and the work we were doing there, I had always been capturing Tim's brain and how Tim's brain works in Excel spreadsheets and Word documents and structures, because that's how you look after a business. Everyone knows that they need more sales. Telling them to go build a sales funnel is not a helpful thing for a business owner. Mm-hmm. It is how was it communicated, how to do it. When someone had a different psychology to another person, how did you talk to the different people to get them to do the outcome? And too often it is what we're just talking about with agencies, or the client's the problem. Whereas we looked at it and said, well, how can we build structures that it's never the client's fault? It's always how we have communicated. It's always how we have showed them. So what are we now? So we're 2026. We probably started this 15, 16 years ago, capturing all this data of all of the clients, of how they responded, of what consultants were doing, of how they were communicating, what was working, what was not working. Jump into the Backable podcast, and we knew what we were doing. Tim knew AI, ML in whatever format was coming. So he just said, just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep being that person. And my job here, we joke, is to make sure that people don't hate Tim. They need to love Tim, so they follow Tim. They can have an issue with me. I would be getting reports from them, making them fill out Excel documents, and they would hate it. But that was what we needed to see, well, is what we're doing actually working? Because we don't want you to say, you've lifted the client revenue by 10%, aren't we great? Of course, but that's to keep your job. You should be doing that. We wanted the client feels less stressed. The client can now pick their kid up from school. The client went on their first holiday in 5 years and didn't have to answer an email. It was that stuff that's not always tangible as much as it sounds that it is. That's what we wanted to actually figure out. And that's what we wanted to build tech around. Fast forward now, 15 years in, not only has AI, the way that AI has functioned and caught up, has allowed us to do what we wanted to do in a really fun, meaningful, and much more simplistic way than what we thought it was going to be. But it's allowed us to build all these layers into the tech. When you talk about, well, can you replace it? If someone can build what we have built, freaking luck to them. Because this is 20 plus years of in-field knowledge coupled with the human side of it that no one can actually do in retrospect.
And some very advanced technology that you can now leverage.
Absolutely. And we've built our own. And yes, you can go out and you can do the agents and you can do all that sort of stuff. But the reality is you don't own that. If you've built something in one of the other platforms, they could turn it off tomorrow. So what you think is wonderful and groundbreaking actually is technically owned, quote unquote, by someone else. We wanted to build something that we had full ownership, that our sort of defensible moat was that no one can come and take this because of all the work that we've done in it. You can't replicate that with a bot. You can't replicate that unless you've got the hard data, because that's what human is.
So what is Backable 2.0? We've passed the podcast, even though we're on a podcast. What is this version of Backable now?
It has become personalised business intelligence. It is, the more you work with it, the more you talk to it, the more you ask it, the more you use it, the more it learns you. So your Backable is very different to my Backable. The mind, which is how you communicate with it, my mind knows me inside out and I use it every single day. I love it. And I know that I'm completely biased. I had it up and I was competing against some of the other AI platforms. I turned them both off, the two that I was going against, because the more I fed it, the more it gave me the answers that were relevant to me. It was also not sycophant. So I don't want someone to tell me how wonderful I am. I told it, I want you to question me. That's how I want to behave. I did my mind training in Backable, so it learnt my psychology and it started communicating with me differently, because I want to be spoken to differently to how you want to be spoken to. And I've become obsessed with it because it helps me to build, a little bit meta here, it helps me to build itself, because I'm the chief of staff at Backable, so I have to be working with sales, with design, with tech. And whenever I've got questions around what we're doing, I go to Backable to answer about Backable.
Yeah. But that's no different to going to the CEO to ask questions about the company, I guess. So this, you create your own mind. It learns your business. You obviously have to feed it, I imagine, some things. And the more you interact with it, the better it gets. Like when you meet someone for the first time.
Yeah.
And you hang out more and more and you get to know each other. And you meet someone at kinder and you're 40 years old, you're best friends, you know each other inside out. That's the premise I'm getting here.
Yeah.
Is it suitable for any sized organisation?
Absolutely, because it's going after the individual. And so the future is that you're going to have teams that work on it and they get to all be together. But what it does is, let's just say that you ask it about an employee, that you're having an issue with an employee and you talk to them about the employee. And 8 or 9 months later, you come back and you say, hi, I'm hiring a new employee. What do I need to think about? Because it has learnt about you so much, not just your business, it has learnt about you. It will go back and say, hey, Shauno, remember last time you had an issue with an employee? We worked through this. So when you do this time, this is what we have to keep in mind, so that you don't have the pressures that you had before. And so the mind actually grows and grows with information about Shaun, with information about the business. And yes, it's got everything else that you'd expect. So it knows, fair work law, and it knows all that sort of stuff that comes into it. But what's more important, as I said before, you don't need to be told to build a sales funnel. You need to know, what is it about you as an owner that can't do something or needs help with something? What is the psychology that is stopping you from doing it? And let's go and do that, so you get the practical application without worrying about the stress and pressure that comes from it.
So it's going to reinforce your strengths and help you with
and
where
your
you're
weaknesses. Weak. Yeah, make sure that you know them, because again, if you don't know them, it's almost a bigger problem. Here's how we work through it, and here are all the options that you've got. And if you choose the easy way out, just remember that this is what the easy way out could lead to, because before, this is what has happened.
Because small business, it's a huge market, to state the obvious. Globally, not just in this country, globally. So is the plan for you guys to really become that support tool for small business.
For small business, SMBs. Yeah, it's a market that a lot of people have tried to capture, but I would say they haven't done it with the care because it's not one size fits all. So unless you really commit to understanding the different fundamentals within small business, you're not going to be able to do it. It's easy to work with $1 billion business because they've got billions to throw around. It's when you've got an owner who can't make pay run, who pay themselves and then put the money back in to pay the next person. There's no structure for that. And that's where we want to be. But that's, people who are struggling. It's also for the people who are absolutely nailing it, that they want to know what's next. And they want to know, well, how do I become the $1 billion business and not the, wake up at 4, have an ice bath and take on the world. Like, that's
Not for everyone.
That's not for everyone. And for some people, that's awesome. And then life actually happens and you can't spend 27 hours a day working on the business. So how do you get there? Just because your life circumstances may change, or you might, something might happen that you get the best client ever and suddenly you don't know what to do. It's not people who are struggling in small business. It's those who are actually kicking goals. As you and I know personally, every level you get more stress, more things you have to think about. And
the problems get bigger.
The problems get bigger in a really great way, because thank goodness you get problems, because with bigger problems it means you're growing the business. But it's never as simple as I'm going to get here and everything's suddenly going to be easier. Yeah, it's just a different level to work through. And so that's why I love Backable, because it's not necessarily about helping problems. Sometimes it's this really great thing has happened. How do I make sure that I get it to the next level? How do I make sure that I don't lose this momentum? I found a really great person and I want to make sure that they're my general manager in the future. How do I do this? So it's the good as well.
Mm. So outside of becoming the next tech mogul, is it mogul or mogul? Mogul.
Davos, bro, yeah.
Yeah. What else do you do for, besides building businesses and all that sort of stuff? Nothing?
Absolutely nothing. No, this is, I would say that Tim and I are very, very lucky that, yes, married and happily married, definitely, we're absolute partners. And so on a scale of 1 to 10, no partnership is ever going to be at 10. Someone in it is going to be an 8 and someone's going to be a 5, right? And you just have to lift each other up.
And that'll change.
And that'll change, again, depending on the day, depending on the moon, like whatever it might be. And so Tim and I are very, very lucky that our hobby happens to be building businesses. That's what we love to do. Our pillow talk is tech. It's super fun.
Okay, so you're about to launch.
Yeah.
What are we? We're March the 6th today?
March 6th, yeah.
March 6th. Launching this month, next week.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. What does that look like? What is a launch for this, let's say, unseen AI tech product that's going to revolutionize small business?
Yeah. Well, we're going out to a closed group. So there's a lot of interest, which we love. But again, you have to make sure that you're doing right by the person in front of you. And so we could launch, I think we've got a couple 100,000 sitting on a list, ready to go, that are interested. We've got to make sure that the tech is right for what we believe, because we've done it a lot of internally. We've done some beta testing externally. We're going to go out to the 1,000 people that we've got that have said, sign me up as quickly as possible. And we're going out to them and saying, take it, do it, work it, make it a thing. Special deal for them because it is wonderful. And we're going to get all the feedback. We're going to make sure that what we believe it does. And as soon as we know, we'll go out to the next 1,000 and the next 1,000 and the next 1,000. But we don't need to rush it.
Mm. Very, very good. Very interesting. What's the tomorrow version of yourself gonna thank the today version of yourself for, with all this stuff? Because you've got a lot going on.
Yep.
This stuff's moving quickly, even without the speed you guys normally operate at. Like you can't even sort of let the chain off slowly.
Yep.
Because of what's going on, and in the tech world and just the world in general. Like I feel like it's here to stay. This is now the speed.
Yeah.
And so if you get motion sickness, deal with it.
Yeah.
Type thing. So what can you do today that tomorrow Lana's going to go, thank God she did that?
It was actually Nigel said this to me, and we'd gone through some rough times in terms of the business and people and all this sort of stuff. And he just said, and while it sounds really kind of fluffy, he said, please don't let this change how you operate with people. And I would say that that is probably what I would thank myself for, is even when things are hard or rough or stressful, not changing who I am. I am who I am. I'm not going to change it. If you don't like it, then that's totally fine. I don't mind. As long as I am respectful of other people, as long as I'm a good person in what I do, as long as I always do my utmost best. And that doesn't always mean 100%. It's the best that I can do in a situation or wherever it might be. Nothing else matters. If I fail in something, I don't mind as long as I've done something that I'm proud of, because I know it will never be at the detriment of someone else.
Yep. Taylor Swift going to get on there on Backable?
I don't think she needs us, mate.
You might need her though.
If she wants, she's more than welcome to.
Taylor, if you listen to this and remember working with Elana Harari 20 years ago, 25 years ago, before you were super famous, she would appreciate some influence.
Yeah, she'd probably be on the enterprise level. I don't think she's on the small business.
No.
Yeah, revenue.
No, she has a decent team around her, I would imagine.
Yeah, probably over 500 employees and in a couple of bill.
Yeah, she's worth a lot.
Yeah. And hard work deserves it.
Yeah, the whole thing with her and her, we're sidetracking slightly.
I'm so happy that we're talking about Taylor Swift.
Yeah, cool. The where she went with the Scooter Braun thing and not owning her own material, and because I sort of have seen this a little bit through the lens of the music industry as well, and people that I know, and what I'd say to that is it's happened to it happened to the Rolling Stones, it happened to Springsteen, it happened to the Beatles. Like, when someone sees something that's going to be successful, they want it. Yeah. And they will, particularly if they're young. But the fact that she just re-recorded all her masters or redid all her songs, so she now owns everything. And her fans are so, like, they're proper fans.
Yeah.
And they just went and bought all her versions. And
it's the principle of the matter.
Yeah, I think it's amazing she did all that.
It is a very interesting thing, because you do say it happens to everyone, and it does. And she was the first person that said, well, this isn't okay. And I think it was someone like a Kelly Clarkson said the same thing happened to me, and I never stood up. And this is where I guess you look back at history and say everything that led up to her being able to do that, all of the history of people not standing up, that she was able to say, well, they didn't do that and I'm not going to stand for that. She had the Swifties behind her, and that's wonderful. She had a brilliant team behind her that supported her doing it, and very, very smart legal and all this stuff behind her. But at the end of the day, she didn't believe that she could do it, that she didn't have that sort of faith in herself. It never would have worked. And then if you take it the next step, she says, whatever, I think it was the Midnight album, a lot of people believe it was one of her best albums, and she said it's because she actually re-recorded everything that led to Antihero, the song that a lot of people who don't know Taylor Swift, they know this song. And so if we go back to what we've been talking about, is the worst thing in the world that happens to someone doesn't actually have to be the worst outcome. The worst thing that happened to this person is that she lost right to her music. So she changed the game, she went re-recorded, she did all this sort of stuff, and it led to one of her most popular songs that a lot of people who don't know her know this song and actually like this song. And so it's applicable to business, that you might lose a client, you might lose a wonderful employee, you might have a horrible day, and you might think that's the worst thing that's ever happened. On the flip side, you might get a brilliant client, you might hire a brilliant employee, you might get the best thing happened. Why do you think that that's actually going to make life easier? And I think that this is the way that I've always looked at business, is this idea of we'll see. And we've spoken about this, you and I, quite a bit. Don't have an emotional reaction to the good or the bad. Just know that if you're going to keep going and you're going to keep doing what you're doing, the outcome will be okay, because you're never going to stop. And that to me is what she's done, is she's not stopping until she's done what she wants to do. And it doesn't matter who gets in her way. She's going to keep doing it her way. And so far it's worked, even when it hasn't. It's worked for her in the long run.
Yep. What's your biggest sliding doors moment?
Meeting Tim. 100% meeting Tim.
Yeah, that's fair, I would say. given what you've spoken about and where you are now. And
So to bring it back to music, so we met at a friend's birthday. Yep. 2 days later, I went to Big Day Out with the record label. There was no reception. There was absolutely nothing there. Tim and I had texted a little bit. I think he'd said, "Are you going to be there?" I had to go and work, so I had no reception. And I'm walking through the VIP tent, taking media to go and see an artist, and I get someone picks me up and spins me around, and it was Tim. There was no way we would have met each other at Big Day Out. There's no reason he was in the VIP tent except for his friend was one of the media, so had got him in. There's no reason at that very moment, that very time, he should have been there. From that very moment, we've been inseparable.
so you take that as the universe.
Believe in whatever you want to believe in. Doesn't bother me. All I know is that there is no reason why Tim should have been in that place at that time.
Mm.
And to me, that is the sliding door moment, because from that moment, his friends wanted to go and see Lady Hawk, I think, and I had to go and see Powderfinger because they were the band that I had to be that I was working with then. And he came with me to Powderfinger, and I remember his friends gave him absolute hell for it, but he knew this is the person I'm going to end up with, so I'll give up some Lady Hawk and then we'll go see Powderfinger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thanks, Big Day Out.
Thanks, Big Day Out.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Lana. I think we could probably call it there.
Thanks, Shauna. This has been delightful.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on, and good luck with everything with all the new tech and all that stuff.
Oh, come back once it's launched. We can have another chat.
You won't have time for that. You'll be having expats with Elon and the rest of the billionaires.
Again, care deeply, don't mind. You don't have spats with
Yeah,
a lot
no,
of people.
it's dubious as to whether they actually care, those people.
But the thing is, and I will say this, advice to people, when you care deeply and don't mind, the emotions of other people don't actually rattle you. Because you can take their anger and you can say, yep, even if it does affect you, because I'm not saying it doesn't affect you, I'm saying you get to just keep doing your job.
All right, so this is the last question. Because you make a good point there. How do you train yourself to not take something on like that? Because there are quite a few people I know who are emotional and they feel the highs and the lows, really. But you've got to sort of be very balanced in your position.
Yeah.
Can you train yourself to actually be like that? Can you train yourself to sort of go, well, that was a horrible phone call. I don't want to make this phone call. I don't want to, and then it becomes this ball of anxiety that just grows.
I won't say it's training. I'll say it's experience. So if you don't make that phone call, and again, I've been doing this since I was 22 and I'm now.
You don't have to say that, but you are. I don't, but I actually don't also think you don't give a shit if people know how old you are.
No, I'm 39, late 30s, early late 30s. It's the experience of if I don't make this phone call, I've done this for decades. I know what's going to happen if I don't make this phone call. I know that if I make this phone call, the speed at which I'm going to deal with the stress. I know when the emotion comes. And what I do personally, I go into a different room and I talk to myself. And I will say, why is it that you're feeling this way? And I will have a whole conversation with myself to get down to the root cause, which is, you know that you messed up and that's why you're feeling this way. So now go and fix it. Make the phone call, send the email, do the thing. Worst case scenario, X, Y, Z happened. You can't change that outcome.
It's going to happen anyway.
It's going to happen in some form, but what you can control is that you don't have to feel horrible for the next 5 days. It is the experience of knowing that my mental health, that my anxiety-ridden body is not worth it. And I've gone through years where it was just stress after stress after stress. Again, nearly being 40, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. The worst thing, if it is you lose a client or you lose a team member or you lose something, it's not worth a week of stress when you could just deal with it then and actually get into the solution. And I much prefer to work on the solution, even if it is the worst case scenario.
Legitimately, the last question. Someone listening to this is thinking about jumping into their own business, and now they've got Backable, so they've got that help. But what's your advice to them if you're thinking about it? What?
Yep.
What do you do?
What do you do? What do you do? Or what's my advice for them?
Yeah.
If you're going to do it, do it. That's the simplest part of it. It doesn't have to be hard, but it's not going to be easy.
What's the biggest thing they could bite off though at the start? Because there'll be all these questions, and a lot of people think it's easy. Like, oh, it'll be easy. Like, I'll have freedom.
Freedom, time, and money.
It's a myth, people. It's a myth. But so let's say they kind of, I'm doing this. I'm going to start my own accounting firm. Is it learning about yourself and how you're going to deal with everything, and so you need to build that muscle, as opposed to be just good at what you do, type thing? Because everything there's a whole lot of moving parts here. So what's something that someone can do who wants to jump ship? What's the biggest thing they should do now that's going to make the biggest impact, do you think, if they did that?
Well, first and foremost, I would say always start your own business. I love it. I think it's so much fun, and I think if you have that drive to do it, do it. The biggest thing you can do right now is make sure that you actually have the drive to keep going, because it doesn't have to end. When revenue's down, you can go out and get more sales. It doesn't have to end if you've got the drive to do it. And what inevitably happens is you can just get so tired and you can lose the drive to do it, which is why a lot of businesses close even when they're profitable, because the owner themselves cannot keep going because of that drive. So I would make sure that you actually have the drive to do it, and not just, I hate my job. If you hate your job but don't have the drive, find something that you love, change industry, do all that sort of stuff. But starting a business it's so much fun. Even when it's bad, having the partnerships around you, having the good people around you that you can talk to, listening to podcasts like this where you hear information from people, but also know that this is just my experience. This is just what I have gone through. Pick and choose what works for you, because everyone's different, and you can't take, my experience is going to be different from your experience. So me saying, just don't get emotional is not helpful for a very emotional person.
No.
But take the idea of what you hear around you and put that into it.
And go and learn.
Go
Go experience it.
Keep learning.
Yeah. Practical is, as I will say, for me, way more valuable than theory.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Love a good theory. And then, you get punched in the face. So
yeah.
plan goes out the window.
Yeah. Amazing.
Thanks, Shano.
Thank you.